love a good Canva scroll. Fonts, colors, pretty posts, an inspirational quote. We get it and we love it. But if you're relying on aesthetics alone to grow your business, you're likely wondering why your DMs are quiet and your income is inconsistent. Hey, Allison.
Hi, Leanne. Welcome back, everybody. We have a great topic for you today. But before we kick off, Leanne, what is new?
Oh, it has been a week. So I think we talked about it last week, but I have air conditioning again.
We love it.
So welcome back to the 21st century. Are we in the 21st century still? It was really funny. Last week I was on a call with somebody in London and the construction workers were in and out. And they were like, "Oh, what's going on?" in their little London accent. And I was like, "Oh, they're just fixing my air conditioning." And they're like, "Oh, that must be nice. In London, we don't have central air." And I
Oh,
flexed. And I was like,
add
not
that to
one
the list of
privilege.
places I'll never live.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, so yeah, we're back. We're cool. We can wear long sleeves inside again, even though it's 92 degrees out. Uh,
Mm,
so we're bumping.
I love it. We just got back from the Poconos. We had a little mini getaway. We were away for a couple of nights last week, and this week, we are just getting back into the swing of things. It is now obviously midweek, and I've talked about it before, but my lovely rotating schedule where I have like a now 2 to 3 day work week with my husband's schedule. So this is my first day this week of feeling like I'm sitting down at my desk and getting some ish done. So I feel back into the swing of things finally, but it was nice to unplug. We have a couple of more trips planned to the Poconos for another couple nights in August before the school year starts. But we have done all of the enrolling and all of the activities, and your girl has added everything into the Google Calendar now. So I am ready. I have my wagon with my bog bag packed for like all of my mom things. So like soccer this night, gymnastics this night, and we are like, getting it going now. So, but anyway, I want to dive into what we're seeing in the online space now. The rise of beautifully branded Instagram accounts with no actual clear offer, no consistency, and crickets, no conversions. Social media has literally blurred the line between marketing and performing. You are drawn to content, but not actually sure why you're there. There's a false belief that a polished grid equals a profitable business. Just because something is pretty doesn't mean that you're making money by putting it out there. Our take, you need more than just a vibe. You need value, clarity, and strategy to get you to a point where you're running a profitable business by showing up online.
Absolutely. So I am so excited about this topic. My background is in marketing and management. And when I graduated college in 2012, it was obviously completely different than it is now. But if there's one thing about foundational marketing, it's that social media is not a marketing plan. If
Hmm.
anything, social media is advertising. And there's a big distinct difference between that. Advertising is getting something out there, trying to get a deal. Maybe you're using a Groupon or something like that. Maybe you're making an offer and you want to get that into the hands of your ideal client. But when it comes to marketing, that's more all and really truly and all about your brand. What is your voice? Who is your ideal client? How are you aligning with your mission? And I think unfortunately, because of the hype on Instagram, we have forgotten that it's not as simple as just, well, let me go into Canva and find a cute template. Which, girlfriends, I'm not a graphic designer, so your
Same.
girl your girl loves Canva, but it's also okay to take that Canva template and bring it back to your why. So I am extremely excited for this topic today.
I think too, what Instagram, and we're saying Instagram, really any social media platform, what it can do is it can capture your audience's attention. It can help you communicate and enhance your message. But at the end of the day, you have to know what your message is. You need clarity in the strategy of how you're showing up because realistically, while it can draw somebody in, how and why are they staying there? And
Mhm.
eventually, hopefully, converting to a client. This is where you need to understand what your offering is, how you're going to build the trust in this community that you're building on social media in order to get them to become a client or customer of yours, and how you can scale this to get where you are now thriving and running a growing business, because social media is a powerful tool for
Hmm.
businesses online, right? But it's not everything, and it needs to be done right.
I was actually talking to someone the other day, and it was a photography client, and they were on my Instagram, and they were like, "You don't really post your photography." And I'm like, "No, I post my dogs, I post myself, I post quotes, I post things that bring me joy." And they were like, "Well, why?" And I'm like, "Well, that's my strategy. Because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, there's a million photographers, and that is a wonderful thing. Like to have the abundance of creatives out there, but no one is me. So if you're going to work with me, you have to know me. You have to know that I'm going to talk about Marco during our session. You have to know
Mhm.
that I love disco balls, and my side project and passion project is a salt company under the guise of a 68-year-old Italian woman named Aunt Loretta. You need to know these things about me because that's what's going to make our session go well. You can go to my website to learn about my photography. You can Google me. Apparently, I'm very Googleable. But if you're coming to my Instagram, I just want you to feel like you're coming like into my office and we're having a chit chat. And that's part of my branding and that's part of my strategy.
Absolutely. And I think too, this is where, and this is something that we also like are really strategic about where with our clients with the growth guide. This is really where you have to find a balance of how much of you do you want to be as part of your business? Like, is this a personal brand? Are you and your experience selling your what you're offering? Or is it like a product or a service that's not heavily relied on who you are as a person? I firmly believe that every business owner should have a personal touch involved in how they show up online, because I think the trust factor comes from knowing who you're investing your money into, whether you're providing a service or a product to somebody. I think that, in my opinion, that's the key here. But
I agree.
realistically, to get somebody to find you, to attract an audience is one thing. To get them to stay because
Yes,
they
loyal.
understand who you help and how you help them is really where I think the rubber meets the road, for lack of a better expression, because that's where people are going to be drawn to you and then converting to customers or clients versus drawn to you and being like, I love her aesthetic, or, oh,
Mhm.
I want to buy that journal she has. Those are like kitschy little, great. You might have an affiliate link for that journal and you might earn $2.68 from somebody buying that journal using your link, right? But what's the big ticket reason that you're showing up, right? What is it that you want? If you're just there to foster a community and sell journals, great.
Yeah.
Good for you. You've
I
done
love
your
those
job.
Amazon residuals.
Right. But it's not the be all end all for most people, right?
No,
Most people have, a reason that they're showing up and recording. I mean, creating content is not easy. We
no.
do it for our passion projects, for the growth guide, for this podcast. Like it's a lot of work. But at the end of the day, it's because we have a bigger picture business that we are, ultimately attracting our ideal clients with. That's one of the reasons, flat out, guys, that this podcast was born.
Yeah.
We wanted to connect with not only our ideal client, but also our other, our community of freelancers and virtual assistants and online business managers, so that we can also share about our experiences working with clients, maybe connect with and meet new clients, but also have that, camaraderie in the industry that we're in, which is filled with a lot of ambitious women. And so, this podcast is very multi-purpose and multi-passionate, but at the end of the day, it's still technically a revenue generating tool for the growth guide,
Yeah.
right? Because people are getting to know myself and Leanne, and that's who they're working with when they make the decision to invest in us as their strategic partners in growing their business. And so this is where you have to get creative on where are you showing up? Why are you showing up there? And how are you going to stay consistent in doing
So I think that that goes back to your why and your mission statement. And I'm about to
it?
say something super controversial. I think
Love
when
it.
we are stuck on Canva and stuck on perfecting the design, we are just masking our insecurity of putting our business out there. At the end
Agreed.
of the day, you could just post, look at these celebrities, right? They just post these like weird screenshots and it gets millions of likes. And it's not because they love
Literally.
the design of the screenshot, it's because millions of people trust them. When I think of Canva, I actually have kind of narrowed it down to the three C's of marketing. And to me, it's, well, there's technically four. It would be Canva, which is your tool, then consistency, which is your behavior and how you're putting your business out there. Then we have clarity, and that's where this conversation comes in. It's about your brand, and that is more than just the beautiful Seasons font that you chose. I love Seasons. I'm not knocking it. I use it, so I'm not knocking Seasons at all.
Hmm.
But Seasons is not my brand. I am. And so when we talk about branding, we have to talk about the voice and what your mission is. Why did you
Hmm.
start this? Why? You know, like you started the growth guide because you saw an opportunity to help women in business develop strategies, right? I
Hmm.
started photography because I love being able to capture people at their purest and happiest and to be able to like keep those moments for them. And that is what drives our voice. That is what drives our mission. And that is any brand that you build. If you don't know what your why is, if you don't have clarity on that, it doesn't matter how many Canva templates you pick up, you're
Hmm.
never going to get anywhere to that conversion, which is the fourth C.
100%. I completely agree. And I think in line with that, right? You also need to develop, once you've really firmed up those four C's and you feel like you've got a rhythm and a plan in place, what are the systems that you're building out to now track your leads, nurture your clients, and really move people forward towards your end offer, like your sale? Like if you've now done the work, you've identified your target audience, you've created what how you want to show up, you've made the visuals, the templates, you now have a strategy to go with these visuals in order to attract these ideal clients, and you now have an offer that you want them to convert to. You now have to put the workflows in place to get them to the ultimate goal, which is the sale, right? To converting them as a client or a customer. So what tools are you using to get there? Because Canva, while it's a great creative tool, you need a some kind of a system, whether it's a CRM or you decide to just get something like Flowdesk is one of our favorite like email marketing platforms because they've got wonderful templates and it's great for what I would consider somebody who's a beginner in terms of getting emails out there. But you can create a landing page. You can create a little freebie in Canva. You can create a freebie in Canva for your ideal client, something geared towards them. Like let's say that you're a hormone health coach, right? And you want to, your target audience is women who are trying to conceive. Let's say you have a free downloadable checklist for the first 10 things I would do or change it when I was when I decide I'm trying to conceive. You can create that in Canva, that visual. It now goes with your aesthetic, your brand that you've already identified and built out there. And you're able to download it as a PDF. You can create an opt-in page in Flowdesk within literally 5 minutes. You can set up a workflow in Flowdesk in another 5 minutes where when they put their email in on that page, it sends them the PDF right to their email. You're taking also, I'll give it even a novice. I will give it a total of 30 minutes in Flowdesk to have an automation set up where somebody is able to opt in and get that PDF without you having to lift a finger. It is now already rolling for you
And
at
then
that
let's
point in time.
say they're new and they want to now put this on social media. There's
Hmm.
Planoly, which is probably one of my favorites because
Hmm.
not only do you have a creator area where you can kind of build out that whole landing page, you can now build out in Planoly, but now you can also look at your content and say, okay, where am I plugging in this
Hmm.
offer? And that's a completely great system too. For $20 a month, all of a sudden now you're not just like creating things and letting it sit in Canva, you're downloading it and putting it into action.
Exactly. And then you have the ability to create an email strategy for post freebie download, right? So let's take it for instance. You are, wanting to sell a course maybe. And it is a self-paced course for, $497. And it is, a slew of 15 videos that walk somebody through, their entire fertility journey from start to finish. Supplement recommendations, they've got great guides and PDFs to go with this course, the whole nine yards. The next thing that you would want to do is create a nurture sequence via email for somebody who's downloaded this fertility guide, because you've already identified that they are either trying to conceive or interested enough in conceiving that they've gotten to the point where they've downloaded your freebie, right? Now you've got your $497 course. But do you jump right to that course? Or
No
do you create in Canva, again, which we're using as a tool, do you create maybe a $47 offer that is a, full fertility guide where it's 10 pages and packed with fantastic information? Or could it be a spin-off of some of these PDFs that you give out during your course? Because we're all about repurposing content around here. So if we don't need to reinvent the wheel, why do it? So use some of the resources that are inside this course and create a $47,
content.
a low ticket offer that then allows you to sell that $497 course as your end goal, where you can say, hey, if this is something that you found a lot of value in, we're going to really dig deep into a lot of this inside this self-paced course. You can get it now for only $497, right? Put it on sale. Give it, we're opening it up, make it like a open enrollment, for these dates only. There's a lot of different ways that you can market this, but you got them in there from social media, from that platform, but you got them there because there was a strategy behind how you showed up, not because your visuals were pretty.
Let's say you're building all of that, you have to make sure that your clarity is there too. And what I mean by that is, all right, we're using Canva to build out all these templates, which is incredible. I use it, guys. I've used it to format books that I have on Amazon. I use it for literally everything. There is no shame. Developer of Canva is this beautiful person who made Photoshop accessible for everybody. So this is definitely not a conversation where we're knocking Canva. But what I am saying is if you went into Canva and developed a download, but that voice doesn't match the landing page, which doesn't match the course where they're probably going to see you, then all of a sudden you have a problem, because it doesn't matter how great all these offerings are. If your brand voice and your brand messaging doesn't match your why and isn't consistent and clear, no one's going to trust you. And the biggest thing you have to do when you're marketing your business is build trust with your ideal client. You don't need everybody to like you. What does little Amaya Papaya say? You don't need to be everybody's cup of tea. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have to drink you if they don't like you. But
Mm-hmm.
in order to find the people who do want you, you need to be clear and consistent so that you can build trust with them.
Absolutely. And it's a matter of putting yourself out there. Oftentimes, somebody is throwing it at the wall and hoping it sticks. And you might have a really great product or a fantastic offering, but if they don't know who you are and why they should work with you, they're not going to invest in what you're putting out there. So, oftentimes, it's a matter of really infusing who you are into your brand and your business online to really sell why they should work with you, not just why
Yeah.
they should buy from you.
So let's talk about brands that we've worked with and brands that you and I have built. Um, I've worked with many different organizations, and I think for me specifically, if I were to define my marketing role, I would say I'm more of a copywriter. I'm more of a content creator. I'm more of a strategist. I like to see and understand what people are offering and then translate that into multiple different avenues, whether it's your newsletter, your blog posts, your LinkedIn posts. I don't need to, like, as like your marketing person, I don't need to know your business to know how to write for your business. I need to know you. But when I think of the things that even I've created on my own, um, I've been so grateful that for like 12 years, I've had my photography business that I've ebbed and flowed at for different reasons. And I've always been able to come back to it. And it's because the people I've photographed trust me.
Mhm.
But then this year for funsies, I built a completely different brand, and it's silly, but it's called Aunt Loretta's Kitchen, and she makes salt and she teaches people how to cook. And we talk about her like she's a real person, because if you
Mhm.
go to her Instagram or her website or see videos of her, she is a distinct voice. And that is part of the clarity that we're talking about. You go to Aunt Loretta's and you know she's going to call you sugar and probably judge you a little bit. And that's
Mhm.
okay, because that's her distinct voice. And that's, I think, something that we don't really think about anymore. We see captions and we see what other people are posting, and we think that's the road to success, but it's not. The road to success is being authentically yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I have always worked with women in the wellness space since I decided to start freelancing. And so for me, it was a matter of merging an industry that I was passionate about as somebody that was on my own health and wellness journey for years with what I was good at, right? And so for me, it was a matter of helping these business owners come to the realization that they may have a fantastic offer, but they're not showing up as if there's any type of strategy behind what they're selling. And so they come to me, and they're posting every once in a while, and they say they have branding, but realistically it's just a logo, and there's no like specific fonts or colors. And so it's a matter of they're going off of vibes, right? And if they like it, they post it. That's not going to be, really what gets you where you want to be if you're an aspiring business owner who wants to grow. And so, what I like to put into practice is first really identifying, their digital footprint. How do they want to show up? What kind of vibe do they want to put out there? And let's be really freaking consistent about the way that we're, putting ourselves out there. And then, how can we infuse who you are into what you offer? And that's my biggest thing, is bringing a business together as a whole so that people can understand who the business owner, the heart, in my opinion, of the business is, and what they do and who they help. Those three pillars should be so easily recognizable when somebody comes across you on your social media page. They should know what you offer, who you help, and who you are. And if that's not really clear and really easy to understand, you might get somebody that looks at one or two reels, but they're out.
Not
They are
staying.
not going to stick around because they don't get it.
Well, I think that goes back to me, that goes back to your mission statement. What am I doing here? Why am
Mhm.
I doing this? Why am I putting all this hours in, this work in? Because the second you lose that why is the second you start to lose your traction. Everything that you're saying about the pillars of when they arrive to your page, it's
Mhm.
to me actualization of your mission statement. It
Mhm.
is you saying, I started this wellness brand. I started this quotes page, because let's be honest, that's something very popular right now, right? Start a
Mhm.
quotes page, post 2 times a week, 3 times a day, engage with people.
Mhm.
Go to Canva. You can go to Canva and start this page and make $5,000 a day. Guys, I know, I see the advertisements, they're all over my feed. But guess what? None of that works if you don't understand why you're starting that quote page. Why are you doing it? Just to make some extra money? Okay, then hustle the hell out of it. Are you doing it because you want to empower people? Great. Keep that at the core of your quote. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be some profound, long business plan statement. It just has to resonate. Because once it does, then all of a sudden everything clicks in.
Exactly. And honestly, I think your messaging is just as, if not a bit more important than how you're visually showing up.
Hmm.
I think the visuals hook people in, but I'll say it again, it's the messaging that is what's getting people to stay. That's how you're fostering the community, and that's how you're ultimately going to build that know, like, and trust factor that puts people in a position of staying long term and eventually converting to a paying customer or client for you.
Let's talk about messaging and AI, because I think that
Mm,
there's this
yes.
big fear that, and I say this again, like I feel like every time something new comes out, there's this big fear within people who work in those industries. So
Hmm.
first, Canva scared graphic designers, right? Guess what?
Hmm.
Canva's not a graphic designer. If you want
Yeah.
something very specific, if you want something that is completely and uniquely you, go get a graphic designer. I spent a fortune on my logo 7 years ago, and it's still my logo because the graphic designers were beautiful and understood my vision. But let's talk about AI and messaging. You can use AI to build a strategy. You absolutely can. If you train a chatbot to understand your messaging and you and all those different things, you can absolutely use AI to brainstorm. But
Hmm.
brainstorming is significantly different than messaging. It is completely different. It's not your brand voice. ChatGPT is not your brand voice, and it doesn't
Mm,
add any clarity to your marketing. So we have to look at these things, and let's add that as a C. Canva and ChatGPT are
literally.
tools. but they're not going to post for you. They're not consistent, and they are also not they're not going to do the conversions, because guess what? We can all tell when ChatGPT wrote your quote. There's a lot of emojis and a lot of M dashes.
ChatGPT is going to give you exactly what you put into it. So if
Hmm.
you're specific and you've done the legwork and you've groomed it to understand who you are and what you do and how you serve people, it could be a fantastic tool for you. But it's not like you can be like, hi,
Absolutely.
ChatGPT, please provide me a social media plan for the next 30 days and get it exactly because who the hell are you? What do you do? And what do you want me to write? That's what ChatGPT should be saying back to you.
Yeah, and I hope actually there is a version of ChatGPT that is nasty that will say that to you. Uh, but
I
I
need
think
that
that
one.
this is, I think it's called Monday,
I
and
need to
she's
try
a
that.
sassy SOB. Like you can go in there and she'll be like, I don't want to do that right now. But I think that's the thing that we're missing overall when we're building brands now. I think one, it's hyper sensationalized that everyone thinks that we can go viral real quick on TikTok and live like Jojo Siwa. We all think that we can just like immediately speed demon into the success because we're inundated with it. And quite frankly, as humans, we're probably not supposed to be absorbing that much messaging a day.
Hmm.
But that conversation aside, these new things that are coming out are tools. They are not your brand. They are not going to do the work for you. They are avenues in which you can customize, you can change, you can brainstorm, you can, build something out. I mean, how great is it in Canva that you can have a brand kit? And then every time you're
Literally.
doing something for a project, you can say, "Oop, I used Playfair here. I used Seasons here. This is
Hmm.
the Arial font that I used. These are the colors." Or how great is it in Canva that you can take someone's logo and say, "What RGB code did they use?"
Hmm.
That is a fantastic and strong tool, but you need to know to ask those questions when you're doing it. You need to know what RGB code speaks to
Yeah.
me. I mean, I was so sick. I don't know about you, but I was so psychotic when I built my logo for Leanne Geller's studio that because I'm a photographer, I literally took my favorite pictures and then went into Canva. Even though I could use Photoshop, I went into Canva and then pulled the RGB codes from my favorite areas of a photo and
Hmm.
used that to build a logo. That's how you use these tools to your
Hmm.
advantage, but they can't do it for you. But that really has to go into your clarity. Who are you? Who are you talking to? Why are you doing this? If it's just to make money, that's fine, but you still need to know your why.
Exactly. And listen, this isn't about shaming your Canva folder. It's about shifting your focus to the foundation of your business. We love good branding, but what we love more is a business that actually makes money, creates an impact, and doesn't depend on the algorithm alone because you can't just show up and pay the mortgage, right? You have to have a strategy and you have to have laid the foundation. We've mentioned so many different tools and platforms today, but that's exactly what they are. They are tools. They are going to work if you put the work in to use them the way they were meant to be used. It's not a matter of just letting AI, letting ChatGPT dictate your social media strategy and, then going to Canva and putting what ChatGPT wrote in for a Canva template and using the template with the verbiage that Canva has on there. You need to customize this to work for you and for your
Mhm.
business. It does require work, but I got to tell you, it will pay off in the end, and there is so much that you can also automate, which I'm sure we'll talk about in future episodes. I touched a bit about it on it today, but you don't have to constantly reinvent the wheel. Create that offering, create subsequent freebies, low ticket offers, evergreen courses and things that can be a bit more hands off for you. And then maybe your goal, right, circling back to that hormone health coach, is to sell a high ticket $3,500 one on one package with lab work and findings and protocols and all that great stuff. And your goal is to get women pregnant. Maybe that's your end goal and that's your high ticket offer. But how beautiful would it be if a year ago somebody downloaded your freebie, then bought your $47 offer, then enrolled in your $497 course, and then a year later came and made a consultation appointment with you to talk about spending $3,500 to work with you, and a year later they're pregnant. Like, what a freaking journey, right? And that's impact. That is somebody who had an impact in somebody's life, and they made that conscious decision to set those systems up and to to create that digital footprint from the very beginning that not only was beautiful but was also strategic.
Hmm. And I think that goes back into perfectionism. I think a lot of times we get stuck in these chokeholds when we're running our business of, I can't post this, I can't do anything because it's not perfect, because
Yeah.
someone's going to make fun of me.
Yep.
I mean, in my own experience, I know for a fact that there were graphic designers that when I would post something would criticize my kerning. Leave me
Mm,
alone. Leave me alone. Leave my kerning alone. All right. Because guess what? I posted it and I got a client. That's what I wanted. All
mhm.
right. Could I have sat there for 40 minutes and fixed the kerning? Of course. Everything can get better. That's like the most beautiful part of life, right? Is that we have to start somewhere, but it's where we start is where we grow. So a lot of times what happens to us is we get stuck and we think that perfectionism is the only way to get that client. It's the only way to come across to different people. But I'm here to tell you that is not the case. I am the most imperfect person in the world, and I've built a business off of that authenticity. And you can too. So, Allison, I know you use Canva as well. Again, this is like a pro Canva platform here
Mhm.
at Meeting After
Yeah.
Hours. So let's talk about ways to not get overwhelmed when we are in Canva. Because again, once we're there, there's all these bazillion templates. How do we narrow it down so that we know what we're choosing, so that we can stay consistent, build that trust, and build our voice?
For me, as a perfectionist, somebody who does not appreciate showing up unless it's perfect, I really had to make Canva appear the way that I knew would not cause me overwhelm. And the way that I did that was I went into their brand kit area and I identified, I put my, hex codes in and, figured out exactly what my color palette was. I, uploaded my logo that was designed for the growth guide, and I had everything situated, right? And then I would be very specific about the way that I searched for templates, whether that meant, aesthetic work from home or behind the scenes women in business, or I was really specific about what I searched for, which provided me with the results to not overwhelm me with a slew of templates that didn't really make sense, or have me have a template that would show up that I would have to customize to the nines, right? Because, like we've said in this episode multiple times, we're not graphic designers. But I
Nope.
think that's why Canva was created. It was
Mm-hmm.
created for somebody who wanted the illusion almost of being a graphic designer, or wanted that confidence of having a starting place, where everything was lined up correctly. There were great organic font pairings already in the template, and it allowed you to show up. But what I think is really critical for me, on the left hand side, in that menu in Canva, your brand kit pops right up for you. So when you're in a template, you now have your brand kit with your colors, your fonts, and your logo easily accessible to you. So you can then take a template and very quickly and efficiently infuse your own branding into that, so that you kind of take away a lot of the guesswork of, does this color work here in this, or does this apply to me? And if there's an image in the background of, like, let's say a carousel post that doesn't feel super on brand for you, you can use their elements and you can, be really specific in how you search in Canva and put your, find, and swap that image out. And so I love the ability to make it your own while also having that like foundation of this is already structurally sound. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I also think one of the benefits of Canva is that it's going to teach you how to pair different things. It teaches you the sizing that works, it teaches you how to do headlines and subheaders and then text font. And I think that's really important because a lot of us as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, but all of us are probably starting from ground zero. So a lot of us need help with those things. And using Canva to learn and say, okay, I like the way that this looks. How can I now translate that onto my website? That's something that is invaluable. And again, that's going to build that consistency because when you're on Canva thinking of your social media, and we're using Instagram, obviously you can use TikTok, but I think different social medias have different benefits. And for the people we're speaking to, I think Instagram is still always going to have the best benefit because of its connection to Meta.
Hmm.
But so then, like, once you're there, once you're saying, okay, I really love the way this font pairs with this, guess what? You can go into your website and now match that. Because when someone sees you on Instagram and then they go to your website, they want to know that it's the same feeling. And it can be all customized to you. One thing I love about the growth guide is when you go on our Instagram and then onto our website, it's that same textural, moody feeling. And I know Allison spent so much time doing that.
Hmm.
Even for my own brand, for my, like, when you go on my Instagram, it's dark, it's moody, there's texture, there's grain. Guess what? You go onto my website, it's the same thing. It's
Yeah,
beachy, it's moody, and that's because that's me. And if you're going to be looking at my digital footprint, I want you to know me and feel safe in my spaces. And I think one day we'll talk about colors and voice messaging and adjectives and things like that that can really customize your brand. But for now, just remember that Canva to me is a great tool because it allows you to be consistent across all your platforms, in your freebies, in your systems, in everything that you use. Once you understand what you want and what feels good to you, and that's all it has to be. All your branding has to be is what feels good to you.
totally agree. I really do think that you yourself as the business owner, the heart of the business, have you need to be infused into your business. Like you said, you are dark and moody and you love like the vintagey like vibe, and that's so present in your business. And when somebody's scrolling, I want them to be able to know, oh, this is a post from the growth guide. Because if they're looking forward to hearing from us, I want to be easily identifiable in their scroll to know that, wait, let me stop. I usually love what the growth guide says. This is a post from them. I
Mm-hmm.
want that recognition, that familiarity rather, of, who we are, and our messaging is going to be consistent always, but I want the visualization. It is as important because it's going to originally initially hook them, like we've talked about in this episode a lot, and then they stay for what you have to say and
Exactly.
what you have to offer. And I think that's the key here.
Because it all leads to conversion. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want to find people that understand us, that see us, and they trust us to convert into long term clients.
You can Canva your brand, but you've got to structure your strategy if you want it to last. Okay, we've got a hot topic for you next week, guys. We are chatting about how to admit when you're undervaluing yourself. If you feel stuck in the freelancer space as a virtual assistant, handling inbox clearing and calendar scheduling, but genuinely feel meant for more, next week's episode is for you. Next week's episode is for the service providers who are ready to stop being seen as just helpers and start owning their role as true experts and strategic partners. We can't wait to see you next Wednesday. Bye for now.